Coming up on this week's official Bigfooty podcast, it's Tiger Time as we talk all things Richmond with Tugger and Danog. We discuss the latest developments from Essendon, there's a plague of Frank Spencer impersonations, and Messenger gets pinched more than 300 times. All this and more coming right up. But hey... Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 8th Bigfooty podcast. I am the Wookie. Good evening. I'd like to also welcome our usual guests for this evening, the Old Dark Navies.
G'day all.
And Messenger.
It's sensitive, but it's complicated.
Chief.
Stop pinching me.
It all becomes clearer to me now. And joining us to talk all things Richmond tonight, Danog.
How we going?
and Tugger.
Toot toot. That's the Tiggy train.
Bye.
I think we're all slightly drunk, but welcome, guys. We've got a big night planned. I'm lying, of course. We've got an ordinary night planned. Usual discussions. We'll be talking Richmond, and we'll be talking all manner of things AFL related in the second half of the program. But first off, your standout moments from the weekend, and Old Dark Navies, what stood out for you?
I'm probably going against the tide a little bit. I like the Port versus Sydney game, not so much for the result, but I don't mind a tough, scrappy contest when it's not my team I'm getting frustrated about. It was sort of... with the way the wind was blowing and nothing was hitting its mark, and it just became a really compelling contest for a neutral. So that's what I enjoyed, that and the fact that Port got up, and you don't see Sydney sort of out-muscled in those really tight contests like that very often. And I just wanted to say I was planning on pinching Messenger 300 times tonight, but I thought he'd go all Luke Hodge on my ass.
Ooh.
Well, the only thing that would have made that Sydney Port game better would be if Paul Roos was commentating, because that would have just been a pleasure to hear. Just hearing him crumble after a few minutes.
True that.
Chief, what were your highlights from the weekend, mate?
Well, I have to say that I didn't get much football watched. I watched a few highlights and that sort of thing, and had a lot of Brisbane fans just crowing about how awesome they were and everything. But I think the highlight has to be the second of a planned 3 threads on why AFL doesn't have state of origin. On Bigfooty. I think it's a topic that hasn't been covered enough. I mean, it's every bloody game, every state of origin game. We need probably 2 or 3 threads each state of origin game rather than per season. But 2 threads for the year, that's pretty good.
That's not too bad, actually. Well, it was pretty understated.
Why don't we get state of origin?
Messenger, what were your standout moments from the weekend, mate?
I cannot go past the comeback, one of the great comebacks of all time. Brisbane with Ash McGrath, who looks like he should be playing seconds in Ballarat League with his little tummy there, kicking the winning goal in his 200th game, and Chris Scott getting all po-faced in his after-match press conference. It was invigorating and schadenfreude all at once.
Fair enough. And the new guys, Danog, what was your standout moment from the weekend?
Would have to be Brisbane Geelong again. I need to raise a point. How much worse would the ending have been if BT was commentating? Like, just really, he would have sucked all of the energy out of that game. I'm just going to go on a bit of an imitation of BT here. This is what it would be like if he was commentating. 9 seconds left. Big boy Pat Phil passes it to Adcock. Sells a bit of hand candy, hands it off to the magician in Zorko. He kicks inside 50. McGrath, the boy from South Fremantle. The footy factory's marked it. What a finish this would be. Oh boy, wowee. I mean, having that instead of Anthony Hudson, who is a fantastic commentator. He goes for Geelong and he delivered one of the least biased calls I've ever heard. I mean, it would have been horrible to have that ruined.
No, rightfully well said.
I know what somebody does in front of the mirror fairly regularly.
Actually, that's the first time I've ever done that.
Tugger, what was your standout moment from the weekend?
Oh, I can't believe nobody's mentioned this, and I'm actually a bit affronted by it. But Daniel Jackson, my God. For 8 years, I've watched this bloke play football for the mighty Richmond Football Club. He misses targets from 20 metres out. He continually frustrates the living crap out of all of us, and then he goes and kicks a goal like that in the last quarter. Absolutely ridiculous.
He did it against Hawthorn as well last year, like with the same sort of banana kick. It's like he was raised on a banana farm, really.
I just wanted to make a correction there. I am affronted by Daniel Jackson.
I'm offended by him.
I
just wanted to offer my condolences for you having to watch him for 8 years.
Just on that Brisbane game, I think it's a bit of a godsend for Jason Dunstall because he's lost the title of the largest comeback at the Gabba being against him when he keeps on hearing about how he took the Hawks into the shade multiple moons ago. So he's that's something he'll be grateful for.
It's still not the biggest comeback that Geelong have lost in as well. I think there was one. In fact, they played Hawthorn. They were 57 points up and lost that one. So they love riding the records down at Skilled Stadium.
I think my highlight for the weekend was, oddly enough, the response to a video I made on Saturday after the so-called Luke Hodge chicken wing incident on Friday night. And
trolling the main board, were we?
Well, no, I actually made it to show Carlton supporters that it's kind of not the same thing as what Judd did, but it got slightly misinterpreted on the main board. Probably not helped by the chicken dance music that I put to it, or the KFC logo. But
was your theory that it was actually worse than what Judd did?
No, it was nothing. It was nowhere near it. Judd pretty much took a guy's arm when he was lying on the ground. Hodges was incidental in the tackle, I think. So,
and he did it to a Selwood as well.
Yeah, well, and it was a Selwood. I mean, he could have broken his arm for all I care. No, I didn't say that out loud.
Don't edit that out.
He's pushing the envelope a little bit, though, Hodgie, isn't he? Lately?
But yeah, he's I don't know. He
has no carryover points.
Yeah, no. Unlike
Stevie.
Stevie Johnson.
Stevie J. Yeah.
Failed.
He has a lot of Bigfooty posters glaring really hard at him, though, Messenger. That holds some weight, mate.
That's right. And I did enjoy the thread this week where, you know, if you love football, you'll abandon football if Stephen Johnson gets suspended.
You'd love those.
Players should quit and go on strike or something. Yeah.
We should all go on strike if Stephen.
All the players should go on strike too.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Nothing beats the Ryan Crowley report though. And just
no, that's got to be the best in history.
And a
300.
And like he pinched me like 300 times, umpire. Come on.
I
think that was just it's about 300 times, mate. It was lots.
Yeah, it was meant to emphasise a lot. But
and
I think
on the board's going, I hardly believe that he could have pinched him 300 times.
It's just you get Ryan Crowley going, I didn't do it, and then Ross Lyon, even after the tribunal denied the appeal, and he had to pay an even bigger fine, you know. Ross Lyon's going, I don't care what the tribunal says, I still believe him. So there's something.
Did he pinch him at all?
Yeah, he would have.
I think there was
a shin boner like Harvey wouldn't lie.
No,
just so stupid. Why would you make that up? You're going to make something else, you know.
He did.
Maybe. I mean, occasionally, I believe he said 300 times because he didn't want to actually mention that he was also tickling him as well, because that might have seemed. Are you? I can't tell if you're coming on to me or not. Yeah.
I think my other highlight from the weekend was Joe Watson on Monday night, basically coming out and saying, yes, I knew I was taking a certain substance, and I still took it anyway, and then everyone else and then his coach coming out and saying that he was a man of massive integrity and a big the kind of person the Essendon Football Club needs.
Yes.
Which all and then saying that we didn't have to tell Job off, but then saying
that makes it such a huge shame that they've. I was about to swear, messed up his career by telling him all this stuff was legal and administering it. They're singing his praises about how wonderful he is and how great. It's like, well, why did you pick him up then?
I don't think Essendon people see it that way. I have yet to see an Essendon supporter who believes they did anything wrong.
Which is kind of ridiculous. It's sort of annoying.
Well, morally, I don't think the players themselves did something wrong.
Oh no. It's annoying seeing the supporters so blind though. Like, it's a horrible situation for the players to be in, because I legitimately don't think that they were aware that they were taking anything banned. But the fact is, the AOD is banned. They took it. They got an advantage from it, so they should be banned. Like, that's
if they got no advantage, it's banned.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
if you're at the AIS and you're a 17-year-old gymnast, you're expected to be able to know these things for yourself.
You talk a lot about these 17-year-old gymnasts, Messenger.
I don't know.
Is this an area of your interest? Or...
Oh, you never know. Look, it's
research.
Occasionally I might get the old eight reel out and watch a bit. But anyway, well, I guess what I'm saying is that just this whole idea that they're within a club and they're costed and they don't know any better and they get told and the AFL Players Association are going along with the line that they've been ordered to do it, and they've been instructed by their employer and trying to remove the get some mitigation. Sorry, I haven't any sleep either. But I thought Jared Waitley tonight was very interesting to listen to. He said the Essendon's position is absolutely fanciful, and anybody who thinks that these guys are going to get away with it are just kidding themselves.
Why is it taking so long, though? It's preposterous how we have to wait and wait and wait. I mean, surely it's fairly cut and dried, isn't it?
I think it's taking so long because they're running multiple investigations at the moment. Because they're doing Cronulla at the same time. It's not the club can't admit for the players. The players have to admit themselves for themselves, and they haven't finished doing the interviews.
The absolute best part of it is all the opposition fans flooding onto the boards to say, "Aha, we got you," and all the Essendon fans flooding onto the boards to say, "This is great news."
Everyone thinks they've run.
The thing with the time taking so long, just going on a bit of a Richmond point of view, we used to have a player called Travis Casserly, who we delisted, and he was playing in the Waffle, and we were going to pick him up in the 2010 rookie draft, I think, but he got done for 2 years for taking 2 Sudafed tablets, and the process of him being banned was, I think it was a couple of months, not half a year like this is turning into, which is kind of ridiculous. Maybe Asada or WADA did advise Essendon something and they got it wrong, and that's maybe why it's taking so long, and maybe that's why Essendon figures are seeming so confident.
Well, you guys had Justin Charles as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a bit different because, well, it's not different. Like, obviously he took the steroids and that was wrong, but I think steroids... Yeah, and the steroids for the purpose of recovery, I don't think is so bad. Like, he had a knee injury, I think it was, or something like that. So to come back from a long injury, maybe, you could justify that. But then if you let some steroids in, then that's going to be abused for, just weekly recovery and blah, blah, blah. And that's not good, so...
In hindsight, Justin Charles got off bloody lightly, though. I mean, what did he get, 16 weeks?
16 weeks.
16, yeah.
That's, I mean, he'd be
but the AFL weren't signed up to WADA then either. The AFL only signed up to WADA in 2009. So
I tell you what, aren't they watching us around the world at the moment? And, the Australian athletes that are sort of coming out now saying, this is ridiculous. Look at what we've got to go through. And I mean, they've got to be very, very careful what the ultimate decision and what the ultimate penalties are, because it's not just the AFL level. It's all eyes are on us.
Well, I think the Players Association's made up its mind that it's the club's fault, solely the club's fault. From what Matt Finnis was saying today, he's basically saying it's the responsibility of those in charge and those who advise the players. And to a degree, they're right. If the medical staff came out and said, "Look, this is all legal and above board," then there's a massive level of culpability you would expect on the part of the Bombers. But
Well, Matt Finnis was quite extraordinary, and he said, "We understand strict liability, but what we're saying is that we think there's some mitigation from the club forcing the players to take these drugs." And so he's talking about strict liability in such a way that makes you think that he doesn't actually understand what he's talking about.
That's why it's called strict.
Yes, what part of how strict? It's not really strict. Maybe just a little bit
somewhat
gruff.
rubbery liability.
Gruff
but
liability.
in that context as well, Ryan O'Keefe's comments were interesting. In that he pretty much just came out and said, if you did the illegal drugs, you should be banned.
Yep.
And I think he echoes more people than are actually saying otherwise at the moment. So,
Well,
Keep pushing his Brownlow.
Well, this is it. It comes down to the Brownlow, doesn't it? It's the.
Well, it's going to be the test.
I thought we were talking about Richmond, but let's talk about the Brownlow.
Let's talk about the Brownlow. We'll just swap around. We're flexible.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
We're go-getters. We can do whatever we like.
So, the Brownlow, eh?
Yeah, the Brownlow.
Yeah.
So,
If you get caught taking banned substances during the year that you win the Brownlow, you lose that in Brownlow, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
It is just out beyond all stuff.
Daniel Jackson said
Beyond
it's premature.
all the realms of normal human comprehension that you could win, one of the league's top prizes in a year that you're found guilty of taking.
But he's such a good
banned
bloke. I
substances.
mean, he would never do something
I'm sure
like
he
that.
is. I'm sure he's a wonderful bloke. I'm sure he didn't quite know, but it's his job to know.
Yeah.
And
here's
it's best and fairest is the best in blah blah blah.
It's fairest and best, not best and fairest. So that really.
All right. I mean,
No. I'm not saying like you fucked up. Oh shit, sorry.
Oh.
But yeah, like fairest and best. So fairest comes first, and taking drugs is not fair. Take his Brownlow.
Since when has fairest come first, though? Really? Do you think the umpires sit in their little room with their little laptop sitting around saying, "Oh, he was nice today. He was."
Well, why do you
very
think Crowley
nice."
never gets any votes? He's pinching people.
I didn't realise Frank Spencer was an AFL umpire.
I'm a man, Betty.
Now, Betty, I think he did wonderful.
20 minutes of Frank Spencer impersonation.
Yes. Anyway,
Go.
now, Daniel and Tugger, we've got a little bit of extra interest in this Brownlow thing because it's possible if they take it away from Joe Watson, the next step down is that they'll award a joint Brownlow to Trent Cotchin and Sam Mitchell.
I don't
Sounds
think
good to me.
I don't think they'd award it to anyone.
There's the Richmond segue. Go for it.
That sounds wonderful to me.
I think they'll do what the NRL did with the with the premiership and just not award it to anyone.
I agree. I mean, in which games did he score votes, and who would have scored the votes if he didn't? So you're going to have to look a little bit deeper than just going to second place.
But
I don't think Trent or Cochin or Sam Mitchell would want the Brownlow anyway.
I don't have any problem with the AFL's position on it at the moment, where they're saying that they're waiting to the end of the investigation.
Yeah.
That's how it should be. You wait
So
till
they
the
can
report's
suspend
done.
him in
No,
October.
he's admitted taking the drugs.
Wait, what are they waiting for? He's actually come out and said it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's the worry. Like, you're going to hear the word injunction a lot at the end of the year. And,
Maybe
I've heard that word before.
Maybe it's only the 2 years
That
versus
was
6
the
months
thing
debate.
about,
I wrote in the forums today that this year's grand final will be played sometime north of 2016. So, but there's
As long as Buddy's not caught taking drugs again.
Again? What?
It's never happened.
What?
Every club
That
has
not.
its skeletons. Every club has its skeletons.
Not us.
Really?
Well,
We've got Bootsma.
not that I'm prepared to admit.
Lawrence Angwin doesn't ring any bells for you.
Salary cap rotting doesn't ring any bells.
Oh, settle down, Tiger Boy.
Should have got
Don't you have guys like Dustin
what about
Martin
Richmond, eh?
and stuff at your club?
No, he's a saint. He took a sleeping pill to help go to sleep.
And Ben Cousins got rushed to hospital because it was a sleeping pill as well.
Exactly.
I mean,
he
it
had
happens
bad
all the
tacos.
time. I pop a still knocks and I get taken to the outpatients at Geelong Emergency all the time.
All right, guys. We're gonna get this back on track. We've veered somewhat off course, but that's okay. So we're going to go into the first segment, which we have the two Richmond gentlemen in Danog and Tugger on tonight for, and we're going to talk Richmond, who are having a relatively good year. So let's have a bit of theme music.
Oh, here we go.
Ooh, 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 ooh.
We finished ninth again. The Richmond Tigers finished ninth again.
All right, so that was predictable.
Oh,
So, can you
Oh,
remind me
it's
what
an
position
extra,
Carlton's in at the moment?
Oh,
Where's
really?
Carlton on the ladder?
How many flags you won?
10.
Right. Come see us when you get another 6. All right, now.
Oh,
People don't realise
same
that for
period of
most
time
about
in the league,
last
people.
30 years, we would have given anything to finish ninth most years.
There you go. Let's try this again.
What?
Away from Tigerland, a fighting fury, we're from Tigerland. In any weather you will see us with a grin, risking head and skin. If we're behind, then never mind, we'll fight and win for.
And I can't take any more of that. We're talking Richmond tonight.
but we were all looking forward to yelling out yellow and
yellow and black.
I was waiting for it.
I yelled it out in round 1. It was pretty loud.
I thought I'd
For
preempt
remember
the yellow and black yell. Guys, we're talking Richmond tonight. They're having a stellar season by their own standards, and so we thought we'd have some Richmond guys. I mean that they're having one of their best seasons for a while. So we thought we'd have some Richmond guys on. And Tugger, Danog, how are you seeing the season down at Punt Road?
All yours, Tug.
Oh, thanks, mate. Yeah, a little bit, a hell of a lot different to last year, actually, considering that we lost a lot of close ones, and our biggest losing margin of the year, other than the Carlton game, I think, was 22 points. But we also lost games that many would have penciled us in for. We just can't seem to beat Gold Coast up in Cairns. What an
This year.
absolute abortion of an idea that is. Thank Christ it's going to finish this year.
It's being aborted this year, yeah.
Thank goodness. Yeah, well, this year we are getting the job done against the teams that aren't so good, like Carlton, and we're struggling a little bit against the good teams. We've got a much easier draw this year, I will admit that. But still, I think we're going to have to find some wins against good sides in the second half of the year, Danog.
Yeah, I mean, just coming from where we were in 2010, we were a disaster. We're basically as bad as Melbourne are now. Labelled worse than Fitzroy, similar percentage, and we didn't get any draft picks, so it's a farce if they, get any sort of assistance. Preposterous, really. And really, Hardwick brought the players together, got them playing for the jumper and the coach. The training wheels came off in 2011, and we really got more of an offensive game plan, scoring 350 more points in 2011 than 2010, so that's always good. And now the game plan is really good in the defensive side, in that we've conceded the least amount of points that we have for a long, long time, really. There's not really much more that can be done other than a bit better inside 50 entries, I'd say.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's open it up for questions and fire away.
Yeah, look, guys, just talking about your statistics, you're down in a lot of categories this year compared to last year, which puzzles me. You're down in average disposals, contested possessions, contested marks, disposal efficiency slightly, clearances, tackles, inside 50s, but you're doing so much better. Is there a change in game plan that's that enable you to somehow be more efficient or more direct towards goal? Or I mean, I'm just, can you explain why those stats would be down, but the team looks so much better?
I think, given last year, the fact that we were very free-flowing, we scored highly, but other teams had no trouble really scoring against us. I think what the coaching panel has done pre-season is try to instill a more defensive game plan. Unfortunately, that hasn't translated into tackles, which we're still pretty deplorable at. But I really do think, well, there's been a couple of games where you can just see that the coaching staff has tried for our back line to hold onto the ball and not give it away so easily. It didn't work against Essendon. They sorted us out. It almost came undone against Carlton, which is what I think Dimmer tried to get us to do in the second half when we had a big lead. But I think a lot of the key statistics is because that we're trying to play a more defensive frame of game.
Yeah, it's a lot of keepings off, really. I'm sure the uncontested marks would be way up just because of the style of gameplay that we have, and really we're 18th for tackles, but that sort of thing does happen if you've got the ball the whole time. And really the worst patch of games that we played were those ones against the really good clubs. I think it was more us playing really badly, especially the Essendon game. That was one of the worst things I've ever seen in the past 2 years. Other than Gold Coast, of course. Yeah, it's the midfield as well is another good reason for a bit of a rise up the ladder. It's got depth, it's got layers like an onion. Cochin, DeLeo, Martin, Foley, Conker, Ellis, Floston, Edwards, and even our man Daniel Jackson, all playing pretty well. I mean, Cochin's down on his normal output, but he's had a knee injury since round 4, I think, or 5.
He's a lot more inside this year, though.
And because Tuck's been out, so you can't really have him shouldering all that workload. But Tucky's getting better, so he should be back in the VFL this week or next week, I think. So, yeah, that's good. And yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll have a place in the finals this year. We can dock in and get really well accustomed to that, and maybe get 6th, maybe home final. But I'm hoping for 13 wins.
Finals look a certainty. They as far as certainty as they can for the Tigers, who obviously don't want to call anything too early until it's a mathematical impossibility to miss. But it's my father's a Richmond supporter, so I hear a fair bit about it, especially if they're above us on the ladder. But I think you guys are home and hosed. Just looking at your draw.
I'm 43 years of age, and I've been following this football club religiously for 36 years. Let me tell you, the only way we are certainties to make the finals is if it's mathematically possible. Otherwise, we could go on and lose our next 7, for Christ's sake. I'm not bitter and twisted, am I?
No. We've got GWS at round 22. You think we could lose that?
Absolutely.
I'm going up for that one, so we better
So
not.
am I.
I really like watching Richmond play, and I think that the trajectory that they're on now reminds me very much of Hawthorn of a few years ago, sort of 2005 onwards, and this team feels like Hawthorn 2007, and they're probably in that sort of lower half of the 8 type quality, and they're not quite up with the top 4. Do you think if you could pick one thing that you could improve right now that you think would launch you up to be really competitive against that top group, the Sydney and Geelong and dare I say Hawthorn, even though you smashed us last time?
Well, from my point of view, I think we still need an absolute gun monster key defender. I know Alex Rance tries hard, and look, I was a massive critic of his in his first 2 or 3 years, but he's really come on. We recruited Chaplin, which has given us some good depth. Dylan Grimes is always injured. Jake Batchelor plays taller than what he should. I think we need an absolute gun defender, like your Matthew Scarlett kind of mold. I know that he's like a once in a generation type player, but that's what I would want.
Yeah, and inside 50s for mine. So many times we just bomb it in on top of Jack's head, and he gets triple teamed, and it's basically impossible since none of our players know how to crumb most weeks, and Shane Edwards does, but he's been moved to the midfield. So yeah, inside 50s, more bullet passes would be nice, especially now that we've got Aaron Edwards in the side, whose defensive pressure has actually been surprisingly good compared to what I expected from him. And given that he's one of the most accurate kicks on goal in the whole league, if we could get him on the chest every week, that would be nice.
How have you how's Mark Williams' influence been at the club this year?
Excellent.
I've heard it's been pretty significant, actually. He's players clearly love him. I think we're all kind of resigned ourselves to the fact that he'll probably get the Melbourne job. We just hope that if he does, he's made a big enough impact on the playing list. I know that he's largely responsible for Dustin Martin's more settled lifestyle this year. He's been a terrific player for us, and I think Choco's been massive for us.
Yeah, he came into the club thinking Matty Arnott, who still hasn't broken into a senior game, but he certainly looked a lot more impressive than previous years in the NAB Cup. And he's really taken those younger players under his wing. Ellis is another one. Conker, both of them have had really good seasons. He's working with Floston as well, and he's really, got the confidence to order around even the older players at training. I know he was telling Chris Newman, get to the bloody right spots and that sort of thing. So, yeah, it's been good. I don't think he's going to go to Melbourne. I think Paul Roos is going to get that. I think the AFL is going to step in and give him a big pay packet to lead Melbourne.
Well, it's either going to be him or Rodney Eade, I think. But
I reckon it's Rodney Eade for sure.
He sounds like he wants the job, doesn't he?
Oh yeah.
But that's by the by. Punt Road, the AFL's talked it up recently in terms of upgrading it. We all know it's probably a ploy to get a better deal out of Etihad and whatnot. But what's the likelihood of that? How do you view the possible redevelopment of Punt Road?
We just did it. We just had all of our redevelopment, and now they want to add more. And what was it? A 20,000 stadium was what they were wanting, or 25 or something like that.
30 or something like that.
Yeah, I don't see where they're going to fit it. I mean, you've got the actual administration and the gym and all that taking up one side. The boundary goes right to the fence on the other side, unless you actually built over Punt Road and whatever the other avenue is, Brunson Avenue, is it, that crosses it. There's no way that you're going to be able to fit that many people there.
If they demolish the Royal Hotel, I will be first out there to protest. That would be an absolute disgrace. I've spent most of my adult life in that joint.
As it stands now, can they actually play VFL football there, or is that not permitted?
Not yet.
From my understanding, I think they could, though, Danog, because the dimensions of the ground have been widened. And
no, it's nothing to do with the playing surface. It's just to do with the amenities and all that. So there's no opposition change rooms. There's not enough toilet facilities and that sort of thing. So it's really just about the spectators' experience rather than the actual players. That's the problem. So I don't think it might be next year, but definitely the year after that we'll be able to play at Punt Road.
I mean, the whole ME Bank Centre is. I don't know if. Only Richmond supporters have probably gone in and had a look, but our facilities now are up there in the best in the comp, and for that to all maybe have to come down, it's a little bit concerning.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't want that.
Messenger, you were trying to say something?
I was going to say the typical VFL ground these days is not exactly high on. Doesn't feel like it's very high on the amenity of the visiting fan. I've got to say, and.
I went to Leichhardt Oval last year to watch an NRL game, and they still had rope pull toilets.
Yeah.
No joke.
All you really need is a fibro shack with a sheet of steel up against it for someone to pee, and that's about your standard VFL toilets, I would have thought.
Depending on
and what do you think they would do with the jumper? Do you think it would be the same sort of strip for the Richmond VFL side, or would it be something different, do you reckon?
I'd imagine it would be the same. Coburg's is completely different, isn't it?
Yeah, it's red and blue Coburg.
So that's next year, is it? Standalone?
Yeah, next year.
Yeah. There's a whole stack of teams that are going standalone next year.
Yep.
So Bulldogs are going standalone. Williamstown basically kicked them out, which is pretty funny, really.
Mm-hmm.
What about the off-field stuff, guys? I think you just reached 60,000 members, and
yeah, congrats on that, guys.
You got Benny Gale in at the club, who seems to be fairly highly rated all over the AFL at the moment. How do you feel about how that side of it's going?
I've never been more confident actually as far as the off-field stuff goes. I think when Dimmer came in 5 years ago, our aim was to get the off-field stuff sorted first, because if that's no good, then you can't move forward with your on-field strategies. So We are debt-free now. That was announced at the Hall of Fame dinner 2 weeks ago. 60,000 members. The next step is to play finals regularly.
Which, it's a positive feedback thing, because I think you get $500,000 for each final that you play or something like that, because the gate's always split or something along those lines. So more finals, more money, more good.
The gate goes back to the AFL. The AFL distributes it to all clubs.
Oh, okay.
We wouldn't know.
Yeah, it's news to me.
It's one of those things.
What is this finals thing you talk about?
Or you could just say, thank you, Hawthorn.
Yeah. I was 12 when Richmond were in the last final, so I've not experienced much in my lifetime.
Yeah.
The one thing I do like is when Dimmer did take over 4 years ago, he said that the next time we make the finals, it won't be just a fleeting appearance, like a once every 10 years, like it was in 95 and 01. He said that when we get there, we're there to stay for 5 or 6 years at least and to challenge. So I think our playing list is finally resembling something that can actually have a little bit of longevity to it.
And people actually want our players now, like for trading options. Before, you wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, but Nahas probably has a little bit of currency, and a few of our developing talls, maybe someone else would want to take a punt on them as well. So, yeah.
Would you like a ruckman?
Yeah, we would like another ruckman.
Would you?
Probably.
I've got one or two to trade.
No,
and,
not touching those.
And we're thinking Robbie Warnock could look good in the yellow and black alongside Sean Grigg.
Oh.
Yeah. And,
we want Andy Collins back, by the way.
I wonder if we could take Jay Schultz
at the end of the year. You can probably have Andy Collins back.
I think you can have Andy back. Yeah, I think that's the way it's headed.
His heart's still at Richmond. That's the problem.
Well,
yeah. And Greg didn't have a heart to begin with, so that's why the reverse isn't true.
All right, guys, we're going to move along very quickly, and it will be time for the news. Good evening, this is Bigfooty's AFL News for June 26, 2013. I am the Wookiee. Essendon captain Job Watson has backed away from comments he made on Monday night's episode of On the Couch, telling the Age newspaper that while he did not regret being truthful, he felt that he did not explain the full context of his admission. He told reporters yesterday that he could make no further comments on his interview.
I suppose in light of last night's comments in the interview, sort of make a further comment. The investigation with the AFL and the SADA is ongoing, and I'm looking forward to that investigation being made public and the findings of that being made public. But I can't comment any more about the specifics of the investigation, and the club will be making a statement online later on tonight on the website. But considering the investigation is going on, I can't make any more public comments.
Essendon coach James Hird told reporters today he was surprised by the admission but not disappointed.
Were you surprised?
A little bit, yeah.
Were you disappointed?
No, I'm never disappointed in Joe Watson. Joe Watson is the man of the highest integrity, highest character, a great person for our footy club, and never disappointed in Joe.
Jeff Kennett has weighed into the discussion, saying that if similar incidents had happened at Hawthorn, he'd have had no hesitation in firing the chief executive and coach responsible. He told Fox Sports that it was likely that there was more to come.
The whole episode is profoundly disappointing from a whole range of aspects. One is governance, duty of care to players, putting individuals at risk, stupidity in some place of players for allowing themselves to be continually injected in the stomach, having signed a so-called waiver. Sadly, I think there's more to come out. I just hope it can be resolved as quickly as possible. It's not good for the code, it's not good for the reputation of the AFL, the Essendon Football Club, and all of those who have been involved in it. And Joe Watson is from all accounts, I haven't met him, but a wonderful young man. But he, like many of the players, have been led down a path that they should never have been enticed into.
Still on the Asada investigation, and the AFL has confirmed that Joe Watson will be free to play this weekend despite his admission that he took banned substances on Monday night. The AFL maintains that no action will be taken against either club or players until the Asada investigation is complete. It's expected to be finished around August. To Melbourne, and Bulldogs coach Brendan McCartney has joined forces with Brisbane Lions coach Michael Voss, who has come out against moves to give Melbourne a helping hand in the draft, saying that sides such as Brisbane, Port Adelaide and the Bulldogs all had to endure the compromised drafts with no draft assistance.
What's happening? I find it disturbing, to be brutally honest. I mean, we've just come out of the greatest compromised draft in the last 2 or 3 years. Our teams that have been, I guess, struggling through that point of time have received no leg up whatsoever.
In good news for Melbourne, star players Jack Watts and James Frawley have both indicated their intentions to remain with the club next year. To further good news, and Port Adelaide's Jack Need is the round 13 Rising Star nomination. The Tigers have announced that they've hit the 60,000 membership market, becoming just the third club to do so behind Collingwood and Hawthorn. If you haven't yet got your membership for your club, then time is running out, with the deadline being July 31. Visit your club website for details. In contract news, West Coast Eagle Mark Lacroix has signed until 2017. To tribunal news, and Steve Johnson's 2-match AFL ban has been upheld at the tribunal after the Cats' appeal failed last night. He'll miss big matches against Fremantle and Hawthorn. The Eagles' Andrew Embley will miss a week for kneeing Hawthorn's Ben Stratton, while Melbourne ruckman Jake Spencer was suspended for 3 matches and St Kilda defender Tom Simpkin was suspended for 2. Fremantle's Ryan Crowley has failed in his appeal to get his fine overturned for pinching Brent Harvey on the weekend. Harvey claims to have been pinched more than 300 times during the course of the game. Crowley has denied the charge and Fremantle challenged it but lost their appeal. Fremantle coach Ross Lyon told Channel 7, regardless of the outcome, he believes his player.
Yeah, as you or I would as well, Baz. It's really important. I believe Ryan. I can't preempt the tribunal, but at the end of the day, regardless of the result, I believe Ryan. So.
To injury news, and the season is over for St Kilda's Sam Fisher, who will shortly have toe surgery. Hawthorn's defender Grant Birchall will be out for action for at least 6 weeks with a knee injury. Adam Goods will miss this weekend's match against Carlton with a minor knee injury, while Fremantle has officially ruled out Adam Sandilands and Matthew Pavlich from this weekend's match against Geelong. West Coast will lose Shannon Hearn for up to 8 weeks and Scott Selwood for up to a month after a bruising encounter against Hawthorn last weekend. To milestones, and congratulations to Carlton backman Michael Jamieson, who will play his 100th game this weekend against Sydney. And finally, if you want to go to the footy this weekend but you can't normally afford to and you're a North Melbourne supporter, or member rather, members will be able to get into their game against Greater Western Sydney with reserve seating starting at just $4 for juniors and $10 for adults. For more information, see the North website at www.nmfc.com.au. This has been the AFL News. Excellent. All right, so we're going to move on to what you look forward to most from the round to finish up the evening. And we'll start with Messenger.
Oh, look, I think Thursday night's got it all. It's West Coast's chance to... they lose this, they're done. They may as well stick the queue in the rack. And Will Essendon reply from a week of turmoil.
Yeah, ODN, what are you expecting up?
Look, I'll go along with the Eagles and Bombers game. Eagles starting to get a strong side back again. And they didn't look too bad against the Hawks, so let's see if they have some sort of a resurgence and head back into the 8. And also Geelong and Fremantle. Fremantle carved the Cats up in Melbourne in the finals last year, yeah. And I'm sort of interested. It will be at Skills Stadium, but Geelong have got a couple out, so I'm just interested to see. This will be a real test for Fremantle and to see exactly where they're at.
Well, it's probably the match of the round, Geelong and Fremantle, and when you take ladder positions into consideration.
Yeah.
So yeah. Chief, what are you looking forward to this weekend, mate?
Well, I want to just waiting to see Hawthorn and Brisbane and see if Brisbane can back that shit up, as they say. And I've got to I've got to re-rate this on iTunes as explicit. Also Melbourne and Western Bulldogs to see who's going to have a coach.
Oh yeah.
Or whatever. I don't, you know. I mean, Melbourne sacked their coach after a bye. I mean, God.
Yeah,
what are we going to do after they could play a game?
Yeah. Maybe Gillard will go for the Dogs position if McCartney gets sacked.
Ooh. Swanee could be in there
too. That's a thought.
Gillard, Swanee, Conroy.
They need a full forward. Should be better than Liam Jones.
All right. Tugger, what are you looking forward to from the weekend?
I'm looking forward to West Coast and Sydney doing the mighty Richmond Football Club a favour by winning their respective games, and then Richmond coming out and doing an absolute number on St Kilda and putting 3 games between us and the dreaded night.
I'm gonna note this down, and I'm gonna laugh my ass off if St Kilda beat you.
That is a real possibility.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
It's funny you didn't laugh when they beat you.
No.
More of a sob.
Sadly, I didn't.
No, but you weren't quite as feisty as you were tonight, though.
Well, tiredness does that to me. It brings out the anger in a man. Danog, what are you looking forward to for the weekend, mate?
Well, a lot of games, really. I mean, I want to really see if Gold Coast are the real deal. If they can beat Adelaide, it's up at Metricon, so they've got a legitimate chance. Adelaide aren't all that crash hot this year. They've got a few great key defenders in Rory Thompson and a bunch of other young up-and-comers. And I think that'll be enough to maybe get them across the line and sink Adelaide's season even more.
Before I wrap it up, I would like to just point out that if you haven't already, there's a number of podcasts going around the Bigfooty forums at the moment. West Coast have just put out the West Coast Forum have just put out their first one. So go down to their forums and have a bit of a listen to that. The Pies have one, if you can stomach it.
You just can't leave it alone.
It's just, yeah.
Hard to get those pies down.
I don't know how they do it. The Dockers have one. Bay 13 has one. Rightfully do you shudder when you hear that. And
I highly recommend the Bay 13 vlog.
The Bay 13 one is a highlight.
It's very good.
Oddly enough, the Bay 13 podcast is more mainboard podcasts, and we're more Bay 13 podcasts. And it's
I think they're self-censoring. They're being too. We'll have to go and G them up.
It's an identity crisis.
I am angling for an invite.
We're like rivals, really.
No, we're not. We're friends. We're all friends.
It's a happy, sunshiny day.
That's right.
But
we're
yes, there are.
We're just pinching each other and tickling.
There are. Anyway, there are a large number of podcasts coming up on the forum, so keep an eye out for them. You can subscribe to them on iTunes. You can download them, do whatever you need to do with them. But they are all about. If you don't have a podcast for your forum and you want one, feel free to contact myself or one of the other admins, and they'll be able to help you out further. In the meantime, guys, that's it for tonight. Thank you very much to Tugger and Danog for coming in.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. And can I just say happy birthday to my daughter Olivia, who turns 13 today?
No, you can't. There's no.
It's too late. He already has.
13.
No room for that sentimental rubbish on this program. It's hard.
This program is about hating anyone who's not Carlton.
It's hard hitting football news.
This program is for blokes.
And ODN, thank you very much for coming in, mate.
That was relatively painless.
To Messenger, thank you.
I've never had so many injections in my entire career.
Oh, the censor is going to be hard at work tonight. And Chief, thank you very much for coming in and gracing us with your almighty presence.
No worries.
Anyway, that's good night from us here at the Bigfooty podcast. We'll see you all next week on the podcast, and in the meantime, we'll see you on the forums. Have a good weekend.
He pinched me.